Netflix was unstoppable just a few years back, but it's crazy how quick things can change. They were taking the internet by storm and were growing at unimaginable rates, but now they are struggling to even keep the company alive. Never in a million years would anyone think that Netflix can be losing the streaming war. So what happened? Was it a slow decline over time, or did they make a few wrong turns to end up where they are now? Today, we'll be covering this topic and the many mysteries that come with it. The idea for Netflix originally came around when the CEO Reed Hastings was late on a Blockbuster movie rental and was charged a whopping $40 fee. He was furious, which was understandable since that was Blockbuster's whole business model. They would profit off of irresponsible families that would return movies late and then charge them an arm and a leg for the inconvenience. Reed then decided to team up with Mark Randolph to create Netflix. It was a way to order DVDs to your doorstep in just a few days. You might think DVDs are pathetic nowadays since you can just log on TikTok and get enough dopamine for the whole week, but back then it was a game changer. Reed and Mark were inspired by Amazon's success as an online bookstore, so they decided to try the same thing, but with some of the greatest movie titles. Netflix picked up traction quick, and soon enough, they had to expand their business by hiring new employees, thinking of new advertisements, and thinking of ways to stay ahead of their competition. And speaking of competition, Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million, which they scoffed at and thought their asking price was comical. Up until this point, the big streaming giants like Blockbuster only saw Netflix as a harmless startup that had no chance against the big dogs, only for Netflix to go public just a few months later at a $75 million valuation.
And today, with quarterly revenues of $21 million, Netflix Incorporated went public at an $82.5 million valuation.
Both Blockbuster and Walmart slowly realized who they were up against and began watching every move Netflix made. Now bigger than ever, competitors saw the potential that the Netflix business model had, so they tried to copy them, but ultimately failed tremendously. During the last few years of Blockbuster's dynasty, they tested the markets with their own DVD service, but gave up real quick. Netflix was at the top of the charts, and they weren't ready to stop growing. Things were changing very quick, and before long, Netflix thought about how they can use high-speed internet to their advantage and remove the large inconvenience of having to wait for the DVD to arrive. In 2007, Netflix launched a service called Watch Now, along with their Netflix 2.0 update, which was exactly what it sounded like. You were able to choose from up to 5,000 different titles and watch them right now on your device. Believe it or not, Netflix didn't think too much of this new service and didn't ever think it would surpass their DVD business, but boy were they wrong about that. By 2010, Netflix had signed contracts to support online streaming on various devices like Xbox, PlayStation, the Wii, and many more. This was the same year where it was clear that online streaming was what they should be chasing. In fact, 99% of Netflix users were using the platform strictly for streaming services.
If you go to the internet, which allows us all to get all those different channels and 100 new channels from Netflix to YouTube, and to have more and more choice and diversity.
It meant changing up prices as well. In 2011, they charged $10 for full streaming plus one DVD rental. And if you just wanted the streaming service, you'd have to pay $8 monthly. Most people hate when businesses change their prices, but consumers didn't care much when Netflix changed prices, simply because consumers knew they were getting their money's worth. Just 2 years earlier, they had 8 million monthly subscribers, and when these price changes went into place, they had over 20 million subscribers. So people knew exactly what they wanted, and they got just that with Netflix. By now, competitors like Blockbuster had slowly started to see their sad demise.
A once dominant video rental chain has filed for bankruptcy, and some movie writers say it could mark the end of an era.
In 2013, Netflix began experimenting with original programming and successfully created some of the greatest hits with this. Original programming was known by Netflix as Netflix Originals, where they would make their own in-house shows, so they would own all rights to the shows, making it the most profitable form of content. Shows like Orange is the New Black and Stranger Things were all multi-billion-dollar hits that were a part of the Netflix original series, but their downfall was right around the corner as more competition joined the rat race. Disney Plus, HBO, Discovery, Paramount, and many more were joining the market in hopes of getting a piece of the pie, and it worked for them. With such competitive prices and quality shows, it was easy for consumers to move from Netflix to the other streaming platforms. This is also where Netflix made one of their biggest mistakes, by heavily pumping out Netflix original garbage, and before long, the Netflix original stamp had a bad reputation.
But I do think perhaps the best solution for hemorrhaging so many subscribers is just by offering better content. This is quite literally like that Twitter meme of make better content or I'm unsubscribing. That is actually happening to Netflix right now.
Many good shows that people wanted to see eventually got canceled. It's crazy how original programming was what helped Netflix get to the top, and it's also part of the reason they fell off. This should have been a wake-up call for them to immediately change something, but they were oblivious to the feedback and continued. This was right around the time when people were staying home for lockdown, so streaming services were growing quicker than ever, and Netflix stayed afloat for the meantime. Before long though, people realized there was better quality content out there for a better price. Therefore, when April 2022 rolled around, Netflix reported that they lost 200,000 subscribers, which was its first decline in a decade.
Shares of Netflix are on track for their biggest fall in more than a decade.
That's right, the streaming giant's stock price plummeted after the company reported it lost subscribers for the first time in more than 10 years.
After their stock plummeted 70%, they were now in a severe panic and began pulling out all the excuses in the book, which all seemed like a cry for help. They blamed their decline on password sharing and people going back to their jobs, but the truth was that their competitors had the same conflicts, except they were able to continue growing nonetheless. Let's say, for example, you were put in this position where everything seems to be failing right in front of your eyes and the chances of surviving seem slim. Customers are complaining about your prices and your lack of value. What would you do if you were in place of the CEO? Surely you wouldn't raise the prices once more. Well, to try and control the damage created, Netflix raised their prices once again and was now the highest priced streaming service with the lowest quality. This might have been one of the worst decisions from Netflix. They were desperate at this point, and competitors began to take over. Streaming services like HBO Max held the crown for the most liked streaming service by consumers. Another reason why Netflix lost so many subscribers was when Russia declared war on Ukraine. So many blue chip companies had to stop all business in Russia. This included Netflix, and they removed all subscribers that were from Russia, in turn causing them to lose over 700,000 subscribers. This was a tough loss for them, but it was only temporary. Netflix began digging into some of their core values and changing them in hopes of saving the brand. Just last year, they disabled password sharing, but it was breaching the beliefs the company had in the past of allowing password sharing.
Netflix once sent out a tweet that read, "Love is sharing a password," but nearly 6 years after that tweet was sent, it appears that love affair is over.
Following this, Netflix reported a loss of over 600,000 subscribers after the price hike and the new password sharing news. If that wasn't enough, Netflix has been working on a cheaper alternative with ads, which is literally cable TV. They are digging a deep hole for themselves. Once a blue chip company that was taking over the entire internet to a company struggling to stay intact as a business. As always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave a like, and subscribe. Peace out.